Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
When I was on Obsidian Radio last Friday, I used a phrase, the pool of simps. And that is a phrase I used in my ebook, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, in a later chapter. And the reason why I used that phrase, pool of simps, was because I know that when boys enter adolescence, most boys do not have any sort of understanding of how to interact with the opposite sex as it relates to pursuing relationships. So because most boys don't have any sort of understanding of how to get the attention of women or what social cues to let them know that a woman is interested in them, this is why we have a large pool of simps from the boy's age of 11 years old all the way up to about possibly age 21. And the reason why we have that large pool of simps, again, is because most boys do not really have an understanding of how to interact with girls as related to social relationships or how to pursue relationships with them. And usually the pool of simps starts shrinking early on, especially if there is a father in the home. Because if there is a father in the home and he is actively involved in his son's life, he is going to be teaching him the social skills he's going to need to understand how to interact with women and how to socialize with women. Moreover, that man is going to start teaching his son what nonverbal cues to look out for when a woman is interested in them, such as a look or a smile as they pass by. And he's going to be teaching them how to study a woman's body language to show how interested he's in her, or how she's into him. So he's going to be learning from his father about these nonverbal cues, and he's probably going to learn more about them as he watches his father interact with his mother. So he's going to be getting a social education early on. So the boy with his father in his life, in most cases, he's going to be socialized not to be a simp in most cases, because he'll have that father there to give him guidance, and he'll have his father and mother there to model a relationship for him. Now, usually the pool of simps, again, that guy with the father's life is not going to be that much of a problem because he's going to have those models for him. But the guys who are going to be in the largest pool of simps is those guys from those single mother households, because the boys who grow up in single mother households, they have not been taught a healthy model of how to have interactions with women. They usually see women as the leaders and authority figures in their lives, and because they see women as the leaders and authority figures in their lives, usually what these boys become are these beta males, and they believe that they have to go out here and submit and defer to women in an effort to get attention from them in social interactions. And because these boys have learned how to submit and defer to women, this is what turns them into simps. Now, other boys turn into simps because they have a beta male father in their lives, and this beta male father, he is telling this boy that he needs to have money to get the attention of women. He needs to be showing out in expensive clothes. He needs to be this sort of big shot. And these ideas really mess up this boy, because this boy is not learning the proper social skills that will allow him to have healthy relationships with women. And this is why we have this large pool of simps early on. Now, as this boy starts to grow up and he starts to continue through adolescence, they will have relationships with women, they will go out on dates with women, and these experiences will shape this young man. And as he gets older, he will eventually learn that simping doesn't work. Usually, by the time a young man becomes 20 or 21, he starts to learn to stop simping And he learns that through, again, hard lessons through his interactions with women. Some guys, they will go out here and they will get burnt by a predatory female. Others will just wake up and see the cues going on and understand that this female is only out to get resources. And others will understand how the social interactions work very quickly. And because those guys are going to learn, the pool of simps, again, starts to shrink. And as it shrinks, we start to see, again, these men who have woke up, they understand how things are out here. And because they understand how things out here, what happens is women start seeing things change because these men are becoming more seasoned, they're getting more life skills, and they're learning how to navigate their interactions with women so they can spend their time with women who want to have relationships with them. And this pool of simps, as those men and women start to have relationships, these men and women get married, and the pool starts shrinking. And as that pool starts shrinking from men starting to become more seasoned, men getting married, men going out here and having successful relationships, men going out of their own way to have careers, some guys taking the red pill and going their own way, that pool of simps starts to shrink, and it literally starts to evaporate as women start to get older. Now, usually the pool of simps is half its size by the time a woman is 25. The pool is at its largest when a girl is from 16 to about 18, and that's when she has all of these guys chasing her, and she's got all these guys making offers to her. But once she turns 26, 27, a lot of those guys have either, again, gotten married, a lot of them are in long-term relationships, and a lot of them have gotten their passport, gone overseas. Others have gone their own way. So that pool has shrunk up. And even some of them have died going out here fighting over women. So the pool has shrunk up significantly. You've lost 50% of the guys by the time a woman, I believe, is about 25. And by the time she is 30, you have a pool that has gone from 50% down to, I believe, about 75%. So that pool of simps, if you count 10 men, you've lost 5 of them already by the time she's 25. By the time she's 30, you've lost about 7 men. And by the time she's 35, you've lost about 8 men. So that pool really starts to shrink when these women turn about 30 or 35. And that's when it goes from the buyer's market to the seller's market, because that's when the women are trying to sell you on why they should have a relationship with you. That's when most women, they know that their prospects are slim to none, because when a woman turns about 30 or 35, that's when her prospects start to dry up, because the pool of naive men who don't know anything about women, that pool is next to gone by the time she's 30 or 35. And usually that's why that happens to these women, and that's why a lot of them are single right now. A lot of them, they were very foolish. They thought that these men would be the same going on throughout life, because when it comes down to a lot of women, they think that that men don't mature. What they don't understand is a man is going to mature over time. Now, most women, and this is something I saw in Turf Flinging Monkey's video, he talked about this. Most women, they mature at up about the age of about 15 or 16, and they pretty much plateau and stay that age. Whereas a man, as he gets older, he starts to get wiser, he starts to get smarter, and as he gets smarter and he starts building his life up, usually that's when he comes out of the simp phase and he enters the man phase of his life. And as he enters the man phase of his life, he starts changing the way he does things, and he starts changing the standards he has for his relationships with women. So instead of him just lusting after the most attractive girl like he did in adolescence, he starts wanting to have relationships with women who have standards. And this is what usually happens to most guys. Usually after they come out of their simp phase, they start entering their man phase, And what they look for in a woman isn't just physical attraction. They start looking for internal character traits, such as the values a woman has, the moral position she has. And usually, once they find those internal character traits, again, that's when those men start picking up their wives and possible mothers of their children. So that's what takes those guys out of the simp pool, and that's what leads to a lot of these women who think that the world is going to stay the same. They wind up becoming single, because what happens to a lot of these women out here is they never mentally mature. They wind up in a state of arrested development, and they still think that they are the same young hottie they were back when they were 14, 15, 16, and 17, not understanding that over the last 10 or 15 years after they've had divorces, illegitimate children, and mental issues from numerous failed relationships, their social marketplace value has dropped significantly. And as she's carrying this emotional baggage, this man who is actually increasing in social marketplace value and becoming more aware of his own value as a man, what is happening is that this man is starting to take a look at these females who are in his age range, and he's starting to realize that it would be a waste of his precious time to go out here and have a relationship with that woman, especially when there are younger and more attractive women who they could possibly pursue relationships with. So when these men look at these older women who have gone out here and had numerous relationships with dope dealers, thugs, gangbangers, and gone out here and rode the cock carousel, they're saying, look, why should I go out here at the top of my value and deal with a woman who is already dropped in value overall in the social marketplace? This woman already, again, has had, usually, because the average woman in America has had over 80 sexual partners by the time she's 30 years old. So these guys are looking at at her and saying to themselves, why would they want to deal with a female who has had over 80 sexual partners by the time she's 30, and possibly 100 by the time she's 35 or 40, had numerous illegitimate children, had numerous mental health issues, may possibly have a drug problem, or may possibly have mental health issues, when they can go out here with the resources they have acquired and pursue relationships with much younger women. So that's what happens with the whole pool of simps. These guys, again, they start out in the simp phase in adolescence, but by the time they reach adulthood, these men, their whole perspective on women changes, and their standards for women change. And because their standards change, this is what leads to the pool of simps evaporating over time. Unfortunately, most of the women out here, they don't understand this, and they think that they can still be the same hottie they were, again, at 16 and 17, and still play the same childish games they played at 16 and 17, not understanding that a man is not going to sit there and play with you, and he's not going to waste his time, because he understands that time is precious. So he's not going to waste time dealing with an immature female when he can go out here and have a relationship with a mature woman who is ready for a relationship, because that's what men are looking for. They're looking for a woman who is ready to have a relationship with them, someone who is ready to meet the standards of God's natural order. They're looking for someone who is ready to be a wife and a helpmeet. And usually, sadly, in the case of most Western women, they are not finding that woman, because the values most American women have been taught teaches them that they can do whatever they please, and that they can continue to remain in the state of arrested development, going out here being a perpetual teenager and not be the woman that they're supposed to be. And because they want to stay perpetual children, what is happening is most men are leaving them alone and going their own way, or going to get their passport to go pursue relationships with women who will be the helpmeet and supports who will work with them towards building something. So this is what happens to men as it relates to the pool of simps. That pool starts out big, and it starts out with these guys pursuing women based on the standards of Madison Avenue and Hollywood, looking for the hottest and sexiest women or the most popular woman. But as those men start to mature, they start creating their own standards, start creating their own values, and as those men start finding women who meet their standards, usually that's when the pool starts to shrink. And as that pool shrinks, that's why so many women wind up becoming single in their older age, because there are 4 women for every 1 man. And as time goes by, the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the women were chasing 20%, 80-20 rule, or 80% of the men were chasing 20% of the woman, changes around. And we see 80% of the women trying to chase 20% of the men, but then finding 20% of the men gone. And this is why most of them say, "Where have all the good men gone?" And usually all of the good men are gone by the time a woman turns at least 30 years old, and that's where she finds herself only having to deal with the slim pickings of whatever beta males are left, because once those beta males are all gone, she has not that many options for marriage, and usually the options she has are men she's just not attracted to. So this is what happens when you have a pool of simps. A pool is big when the girl is young, but once the guys start getting older and more mature, that's when the pool shrinks down and evaporates. And by the time a woman is 40 years old, there's nothing in the pool but 1 drop. And usually, if she does not take that drop and continues to have these impossible standards, there's nothing there for her but a bunch of old cats in the future, and she's headed towards becoming a spinster for life. If you'd like to learn more about the reasons why so many black women are single, you can pick up my ebook, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, on Amazon.com, Smashwords, Barnes & Noble, or the iBookstore. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.